We know extremist hate is on the rise in Canada, and tonight a new report puts it in perspective. A London-based think tank with funding from the Canadian government found close to 7,000 channels of right-wing extremism. And as Abigail Beeman reports, the haters are operating with obscurity on the internet.
What do the 2019 federal election and the Christchurch mosque attack have in common? A new report shows they both caused spikes in Canadian right-wing extremist activity online. The report from the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, or ISD, with funding from the Canadian government, looked at 7 platforms from Facebook, Twitter and YouTube to fringe outlets including the now defunct fascist Forge.
There is really this fairly well-established infrastructure of right-wing extremist communities operating across these different platforms.
ISD found nearly 7,000 right-wing extremist pages, groups, users and channels in Canada with a wide reach, 11 million users worldwide.
It is sort of normalizing those narratives, especially where they're on the mainstream platforms, right? That somehow if it's on Facebook, if it's on Twitter.
Barbara Perry published Canada's first national study on right-wing extremism back in 2015. The new ISD study is part of her broader update that will look at offline activity too.
If you look at 2 of the most extreme platforms, for example, the Iron March and the fascist Forge, Canada ranks up there in the top 3 with the US and the UK in terms of active members. So I think that will come as a real surprise.
Anti-Muslim hostility and hatred were among the most common topics.
It really suggests that there is a concerted effort by Canadians to target Canadian Muslims, to say that they're not welcome in this country and even to justify attacks against them.
Anti-Trudeau rhetoric is very prevalent too. Here's one example of a post on 4chan's politically incorrect page. Other categories analyzed include white supremacy and the manosphere, a catch-all for misogynist movements like incels. And while social media may only be online, it allows extremists to spread propaganda, recruit, and coordinate activity, including violence. Extremists are also starting to target Chinese people, blaming them for the novel coronavirus. Perry believes the full 2020 data will show much more hate in general, with so many people at home, online.
Because of the anxiety caused by COVID, more people are perhaps looking for these kinds of outlets, these kinds of narratives and conspiracy theories.
And in the wake of the most recent anti-racist protests, ISD is also starting to document evidence of groups targeting Black people, too.
Abigail, in this fight against hate, who is ultimately responsible?
Well, Robin, experts say government, law enforcement, and social media platforms all have a role, but so do we to call things out and report them when we see them. Facebook tells us in the first quarter of 2020, they removed close to 10 million posts under hate speech policies. And as for the government, the Public Safety Minister's office says they're committed to taking action to stop terrorism, violence, and hate linked to the online world, and pointed us to a campaign promise to make social media platforms remove illegal content within 24 hours or face consequences, but no details about when the Liberals would implement that or how. Robin?
Abigail Beeman in Ottawa.